Before anything else, let's greet our listener and our watcher for today's
Okay,
podcast.
good morning everyone, and for those who could, wherever this podcast may reach in the other part of the world.
Alright, that was great. So we have here Ate Michelle, and for today's podcast, before anything else, I just want to say good morning if you're watching this podcast at morning, good afternoon if you are watching this podcast at afternoon, and good evening if you're watching this podcast at evening. And I hope you had a great day today. Now, for this podcast, we will be talking about different literature, specifically for poetry, right?
Yes, that's right. And we are trying to get and dig in the influence that we had before in this modern generation.
I see, I got your point. So basically saying we will be talking about the difference between the poetry before and today's generation, right?
Yes.
That was a great topic. Now let's start our topic for today.
There are types of generation that could really call on my mind. It's all about the Beat generation, that's in 1950s, and also the one is 1930s. This period of objectivism. Somehow they have some similarities, but more on a lot of differences, especially the impact of today's generation, if you could compare that.
I see. Are you talking about the surrealism, right? In the Beat generation?
Oh yes, that's right.
I see. So, if may I ask you, what's your preference for the poetry? Are you prefer for the post one or the previous influence for the poetry, or in the present one?
Well, actually, we cannot deny the fact that the past generation, they have an impact in today's literature. But actually, I preferred more on traditional way, especially the narrative way in poetry, because I really love poem.
I see. I understand your part. However, I contradict it a little bit because I agree with the surrealism that our generations have today, because I'm into expressing my part, or if I can say it, freedom, because we deserve a freedom of speech as well through poetry, through literature, right?
Oh yes, somehow I do agree, but sometimes it can cause an impact into causing the rebellion of the young generation, because especially if you mention what generation are you referring about, that somehow you could give an inspiration for you, that it gives you an idea of how to truly express yourself. What generation is that?
I see. Are you talking about the Beat generation, right?
Oh yes, somehow it sounds like it has a positive influence though, but based on your preferences about the Beat literature, so what is your real what's your real reason why you like that kind of literature?
I see. Thank you for asking that question. That was a nice question though. If you're talking about surrealism or a Beat generation, I'm more into it because we all know that a generation nowadays is they're much more expressive, right? They are somewhat called avant-garde. They are in exploring the new generation, or they want freedom. And we all know that generation nowadays, or youth nowadays, they have a lot of problems, they have anxiety, or much more depression. So it is important for them to have literature in order for them to be able to share their expression or to express their feelings, because somewhat it's just like a jar. If the jar will be full with water, it might spill, right? So it will overflow with water. So somewhat it could make sense, or should I say, the influence of Beat literature can be used in order for us to be able to express our feelings.
So anyways, I cannot argue about that, because somehow it's true, the avant-garde, the new exploration of something, trying to experiment new things. But rather than that, it's somehow paved the way into the youth rebellion, and somehow it's being liberated is not quite really good, especially if you're trying to adopt the norms of the society. And somehow public people, the the one who are trying to adopt or practice the way of liberation and surrealism, it's somehow they're called lunatic, or somehow they're called madmen because they don't have control. They do drugs, they even explore and other things, and also sexually promiscuous. I'm okay. Somehow it's some kind of, even though in this modern generation, we can still have time to say that, oh, I'm in a traditional woman. Our age difference. It could be, it's sexually promiscuous. It's really against the norms of the society, and nowadays young generations are making it normal. And
I see, I understand your point. However, we cannot blame the young people, right? Because right at this moment, even the society dragged them down. We cannot blame the youth that they are more into drugs. Now, let's just focus on what was the possible reason or behind those youth who use drugs, who indulge into sexuality, who indulge into bad habits, or not in line with the norms, right? So basically saying we cannot force them to do the same in the traditional way. Now, it's better to have a literature, specifically poetry. If we're talking about poetry, it's better to have that literature that influence with a bit literature in order for them to be able to release the negativity that they have. Because if we keep on focusing or we insist the traditional way, if they cannot adopt it, then they cannot use it, right? So it's easy for them, if it's easy for them to be able to use poetry in order for them to be able to express their art, then let it be, because people nowadays are trying their best in order for them to be able to live in this kind of society they are belong to.
Well, anyways, I somehow agree, because poetry is a source of trying to explore, or we are able to express our own opinions and feelings. But there's always a limitation, because sometimes, especially the young generation, they don't know how to do the limits. And also somehow for me, I would really prefer to follow the conventional way in poetry, because it follows some rhythm, and also they are following the standard texts and styles in doing the literature.
I see. I probably understand your point. However, if you keep on focusing in a traditional way, or should I say the objectivism period, right? Much more, or it is better to have the bit literature that we have. It is because the people, or the people who live in society, are given a chance to voice out, given a chance to express their feelings. Unlike the traditional way that you're talking about earlier, is some of the people only, or selected people only, are given a chance to voice out using poetry. Those are the educated people, and those who are fortunate enough to write poetry. But right at this moment, the positive part that bit literature have is that all the people, or all those people who wanted, or even ordinary people who wanted to write poetry, can do so, because it's their right to express their feelings and emotions, or to have a freedom of expression through literature.
Well, anyways, literature, if you say literature, it's a freedom of expression, because it's your own point of view, and you are able to express freely how you feel. But being too much liberated, practicing liberation, it's somehow, it could really affect especially the young generation, like you're still young. So somehow it's really important to have limitations also in doing or expressing yourself.
I agree with your part, and thank you for bringing that up, the limitations statement, because I agree, even if we have freedom of expression, it is better to have a limitation because too much is not good as well. So if we exceed our limitation, there might be there might be a chances that we can hurt other people. It's okay to do the things that you love, however, it is never okay if you hurt someone else because of the things that you love, right?
Yes.
So that is all. Now for the message that we have for those who are watching this podcast today, if you wanted to express yourself through literature, it is okay to express yourself in literature, but as what Ate Mitchell stated, you have to have a limitations for everything because literature or poetry, if you wanted to broadcast it to a lot of people, there might be a chances that other people can see it or whole wild world can see it through technology. But the content that you have, it is better to have a limitation for the content that you're trying to share to other people. Am I correct, Ate?
Yes, I do agree that. So making literature is not more on very explicit way because we tend to give the meaning of what the literature is meant to give inspiration and not to influence bad things to others, especially to the young generation. We still need to uphold our moral values, so in order to conform the norms of the society. But it's not wrong also to adopt the new world, but with limitation. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. So the keyword today is limitation for everything. Thank you for watching our videos for today, and thank you for listening our podcast. Once again, this is Ate Mitchell, our co-host for today, and this is Karil Ann Inaliantes. See you in our next podcast. Thank you and have a good day ahead. Bye!
Bye!